Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Got a great show for you guys today. It's Friday, it's the end of the week. We got a lot of interesting news. We're going to talk a little bit about the Omnibus, or at least Trump's reaction to the Omnibus. Then we have news from yesterday. John Bolton. We are completely fucked. If you're not interested in war, then you are out of luck in this administration. Then we've got more shakeup in the White House as well. Not just H.R. McMaster, but we also have other people that they plan to fire. We've got Elizabeth Warren going after Ben Carson on HUD. That's interesting. And Kellyanne Conway thinks that people who get addicted to fentanyl should have just went for the fries or ice cream. If only they had decided to dig into the Ben & Jerry's and not into hard prescription drugs, well, then they wouldn't be addicted. Oh, it's ridiculous. So we've got that. We got more. Big day. Lots of progressive news. Lots of going after the Trump administration, which, of course, is the most fun. So let's get to it. Before we do, of course, I want to remind everybody to please like and share the stream. No matter where you're watching, a like and a share always helps. That's what helps get the show out. For those of you who are subscribed, make sure to always hit the bell so that you get notifications of when we're live and when we're putting up videos. Those of you who haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Believe me, it's going to be fantastic. Trust me. Okay, anyway. So, let's get into the stories here. We'll start out with, of course, President Trump and the Omnibus. Now, President Trump is not happy with the $1.3 trillion omnibus bill that Congress passed. Now, they passed that today to avoid a shutdown that would have happened tonight. It would have been a partial government shutdown. So this spending bill, like I said, it's enormous, $1.3 trillion. A lot of it's going to the military. In fact, I think it's about somewhere around half of the benefits are going to the Pentagon. That actually factors into one of the reasons that Donald Trump signed it. But despite that, like I said, he is not happy. And earlier, after signing it, he went and told reporters such. In fact, we've got some video of him talking about the omnibus bill. Let's go to that.
There are a lot of things that I'm unhappy about in this bill. There are a lot of things that we shouldn't have had in this bill, but we were, in a sense, forced. If we want to build our military, we were forced to have. There are some things that we should have in the bill. But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old. Some people don't even know what it is. $1.3 trillion. It's the second largest ever. President Obama signed one that was actually larger, which I'm sure he wasn't too happy with either. But in this case, it became so big because we need to take care of our military.
So that's ironic. Here's Donald Trump complaining about a bill that nobody read the bill. I mean, it's 2,200 pages. Nobody read the bill. Dude, you won't even read a full-page briefing. Again, going back to the reports where President Trump couldn't keep his attention focused on anything that's longer than a tweet. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Oh, but you know, the only reason that we had to actually do something about or sign this omnibus bill is we had to do something about the military. We got to rebuild our depleted military. We already give $600 billion, or we did give $600 billion to the military already. Now it's somewhere around $700 billion. We give more to the military than every other country combined. But no, we got to rebuild our military. That's the only reason I signed the omnibus. Now, let me show you the real reason that he signed the omnibus bill. According to The Hill, the president's remarks about the process echo those of conservatives in Congress and on Fox News, who have fumed in recent days that the massive omnibus was forced on them shortly before the government spending deadline. Oh. Many on the right believe that Republicans would have opposed the bill if Democrats were in power. Oh, Fox News was complaining about it. Well, that explains everything. Donald Trump watches Fox News religiously. So, if Fox News says, oh, the omnibus bill, what a terrible bill, but I guess they'll have to sign it because of all the money that it gives to the military. But boy, they should have read it first. How many times? Like, nobody reads the bill. I mean, okay, the congressmen do not read the bill. Senators do not read the bill. Their staffers, I think, read parts of it and try to give them the gist. Now, to be fair, to give credit to Rand Paul is the only guy out there who's reading it. In fact, he's been live tweeting all morning about it. Like, oh, guess what's in this part of the bill? And then over in this part, I'm going to tweet about this. But aside from him, nobody else reads the bill. And Trump's mad because Fox News is mad, and he doesn't really care. Again, he doesn't read anything that comes across his desk that is larger than a page, that does not have maps and graphics. So, look, I'm just letting you know that Donald Trump, again, how he operates, the fact that he's not mad about this bill because it's because nobody else knows what's in it. He doesn't know what's in it. He doesn't know what's in any legislation. And he's only repeating what he heard from Fox News. Okay. Now let's get to something that we should all be outraged about. Our new national security advisor. Wonderful. Now, yesterday, H.R. McMaster, National Security Director, resigned. He decided to step down. He is no longer National Security Director, and he is now being replaced by John Bolton. Oh, dear God, no. Now, yesterday, Trump tweeted to thank General McMaster, saying that he had done an outstanding job and will always remain his friend, blah, blah, blah. Bolton, who is replacing him, is, look, there's a lot of, I guess, context around the pick for Bolton, right? Look, Donald Trump probably picked Bolton because he is somebody that he sees on Fox News all the time. I'm going to keep it 100%. He sees Bolton on Fox News. He's like, oh, this guy's strong. This guy's tough. Yeah, that's the guy that I want for my national security director. Yeah. Oh, boy. Now, again, I guess you could say he's strong. There's another word for that, and that is hawkish. In fact, Bolton has attacked, or I'm sorry, has backed attacking both North Korea and Iran. And to this day, he still supports the invasion of Iraq. That is at odds with the president's rhetoric during the election. And remember, President Trump ran as somebody who wasn't going to be an interventionist. I know there's a lot of people that supported Donald Trump or were against Hillary Clinton because, well, Hillary Clinton is incredibly hawkish. Now, I agree with that. She is hawkish. And to some of those people, the appeal of Donald Trump is that, well, look, he's a nationalist. Yeah, he says a bunch of terrible things, but at least he's not going to launch us into a bunch of terrible wars. Well, now with Bolton, it's looking a little bit more likely that we will be going to war. Now, Trump tweeted out, I'm pleased to announce that effective 4/9/18, John Bolton will be my new national security advisor. Now, Bolton said, hey, look, I know you guys think I'm super hawkish, but some of those statements that I made earlier, I'm going to put behind me. And I'm just going to be the best national security advisor that I can to the president. Well, okay. Now you might be wondering, what did he say before? Well, I've got a couple of things that I want to show you that he has said about, well, that have been a little controversial. Let's take a look.
There is no United Nations. The Secretariat building in New York has 38 stories. If you lost 10 stories today, it would make a bit of difference.
But our biggest national security crisis is Barack Obama.
We have to know the facts here, and it's not at all clear to me, just viewing this from the outside, that this hacking into the DNC and the RNC computers was not a false flag operation.
I think the only diplomatic option left is to end the regime in North Korea by effectively having the South take it over.
So that's just a couple of the things. Let me get into more details about what he said about, for example, North Korea, right? Now, you just heard him. He said, well, the most effective strategy in North Korea is basically to go in and launch a war and have South Korea take it over. Now, he cited preemptive strikes by Israel on Syrian and Iraqi reactor sites. Bolton, back in February of this year, made a case in the Wall Street Journal for a preemptive strike on North Korea. Quote, preemption opponents argue that action is not justified because Pyongyang does not constitute an imminent threat. They are wrong. The threat is imminent. And the case against preemption rests on the misinterpretation of a standard that derives from pre-nuclear, pre-ballistic missile times. Given the gaps in the U.S. intelligence about North Korea, we should not wait until the very last minute. That would risk striking after the North has deliverable nuclear weapons, a much more dangerous situation. Now, what he said about Russia. Now, look, there's a lot of people who said, I'm not convinced that the Russians had a role in pre-election hacking. That's what he had said before. Now he's changed his tune. He's now advocating for heavy retaliation in an opinion piece filed after Special Counsel Robert Mueller returned indictments alleging conspiracy to defraud the U.S. against a group of Russian nationals. Bolton wrote, one way to deter Russia is to engage in retaliatory cyber campaign against Russia. This effort should not be proportional to what we have just experienced. It should be decidedly disproportionate. The lesson we want Russia or anyone else is to learn that the cost to them from future cyber attacks against the United States will be so high that they will simply consign all their cyber warfare plans to their computer memories to gather electronic dust. So he's saying, if they hit us, we hit them back 3 times harder. Hey, let's go into a cyber war with Russia. Well, that sounds excellent. Again, North Korea, ending the regime, and Iran, same thing. Let's go in, let's bomb Iran. We should rip up the deal that allowed them to, encourage them to give up their nuclear arsenal, their energy, and things like that, in return for their money that we froze. That was their money that we gave back, thanks to the Iran deal, and it has delayed them in actually getting a nuclear weapon. Bolton, just like Trump, is like, no, let's rip up the Iran deal, and let's do preemptive strikes on them. Let's go to war with both Iran and North Korea. These are just a few of the examples of the hawkishness of John Bolton. We're going to war. I can almost guarantee it. Now, for those of you who are skeptical of that and say, oh, come on, Jeff, you don't know that. Maybe we're not going to go to war. Maybe we should believe John Bolton when he says he puts those past statements behind him. Well, consider this. Donald Trump is historically unpopular. Now, what do presidents usually do that, or unpopular presidents do when they're in a lot of trouble electorally? They launch wars. Hey, look, American patriotism, right? That is one thing that helps you shore up your base. Not only that, but if you guys remember when Donald Trump started attacking Syria, right? When he launched all those missiles. You remember the media reaction? The same media that attacks him nonstop. The day that he launched missiles against Syria, everybody was like, oh, would you look at that? That is the day that Donald Trump became presidential. beautiful missiles. The media hasn't met a war they didn't love. And because war gives ratings. And of course, a lot of these media companies are also tied in with the military-industrial complex. So, oh, look at that. We do something about the low approval ratings. And we do something about the media attacking me. Going to war. Because the media absolutely loves war. Look, if you think it didn't work, it worked already. It worked for President Bush. He got reelected because he ran on the war effort. Oh, do you really want to hand it over to somebody new? Well, look at Donald Trump. He's doing such a great job in Iran and North Korea. We can't just abandon the horse midstream. No, we're going to have to reelect Donald Trump so he can be strong and finish the wars. You don't think that that can happen? It could definitely happen. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, for the sake of the world, if we go to war, especially in North Korea, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of casualties. It's going to be devastating for our allies in the region. Look, even without nuclear weapons, North Korea can essentially flatten half of South Korea with just our artillery to begin with. And it's not like those preemptive strikes would take out their nuclear capability. There are, bunkers hidden in mountains and shit like that. That's stuff that we cannot easily penetrate. So, look, North Korea, war in North Korea, bad idea. And if you thought Iraq was bad, Iran, I think, is like 3 times bigger. It's going to be that much worse. No, this cabinet is now full of war hawks. If you think we're not going to war, think again. Disastrous. Okay. Let's move on. All right. Now, President Trump wants to remind you that there is absolutely no chaos in the White House. He says the fake media is coming up with this this narrative that there's chaos in the White House because, well, there just happens to be really record high turnover. Now, he says, no. There's no chaos in the White House. There's just great energy. There's absolutely no purge, and people just come and go. Well, as of late, there's been a lot of people that have just come and go. In fact, recently you had Rex Tillerson, who was fired. They got rid of him. Hope Hicks resigned as well. Then, just recently, H.R. McMaster. Now, McMaster is being replaced with John Bolton, who is an absolute war hawk. So, yay, look out for that. But it turns out that according to the White House officials, McMaster wasn't the only one that was supposed to go. Politico is reporting that White House Chief of Staff John Kelly and other senior aides were waiting for potentially bruising Inspector General reports on Veteran Affairs Secretary David Shulkin and Housing and Urban Development Secretary Ben Carson. Now, why were they waiting for that? Well, because they were looking at those ways to get rid of those people. Now, the White House had planned, according to Politico, to then announce the departure of McMaster as well as Carson and Shulkin all at once in a massive staff shakeup. Now, McMaster, of course, as I said, one of the biggest high-profile departures. And so when Trump basically undercut by tweeting, the White House is like, oh, shit, what do we do? I guess we can't just announce this fire because now it's going to be even worse in the media. Now, White House officials, they said, were caught off guard when Trump tweeted the late Thursday afternoon that Bolton would replace McMaster. So, look, man, this is a purge. This is a shakeup. This is fairly big. I mean, the turnover rate is insane. Now, these IG reports for Shulkin found that he's misspent on taxpayer money on travel for him and his wife. Of course, that's corruption. And then Carson, basically the same thing. It was reported that he spent $31,000 on a dining set for his office. Now, of course, it's funny because here's Carson throwing his wife under the bus. Oh, no, she picked it out. She was the one that bought it. It wasn't me. But it was reported earlier that he absolutely knew about it. So that's a fairly big scandal when it comes to misappropriating and spending taxpayer money. Obviously, it's huge corruption. So they were going to use those excuses to go and get rid of both Shulkin and Carson. But in Donald Trump fashion, he completely upended that timetable. So now we don't know what's going to happen to both Carson and Shulkin. We'll have to see. But look, as far as Donald Trump claiming that, no, there's no chaos. It's just great energy. And everything's fine. There's no big shakeup. There's no purge. There's nothing weird's going on here. It is a bunch of complete lies. This White House is coming apart at the seams. Sad. Okay. You know what? Here's what I want to do. I would like to go to Elizabeth Warren after this. And then we'll go to a break. Okay. When was that? On Thursday, Elizabeth Warren ripped into Ben Carson over his overseeing of the housing and urban development. Let me start that again because I completely botched that. On Thursday, Elizabeth Warren ripped into Ben Carson for his failure to address housing discrimination. Now, during this Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs committee, Warren grilled him on his efforts to try to combat, of course, the problem of housing discrimination. And she was not gentle. I got some videos. Let's take a look.
During your confirmation process, I asked you about your commitment to enforcing laws against housing discrimination, despite whatever personal feelings you had about those laws. And you said at that hearing, quote, "I will follow the law." And I remember hoping that that was true. So, Secretary Carson, it's been a year now. Can you name a few of the things you've done to reduce housing discrimination in your time at HUD?
First of all, we are constantly involved in lawsuits that we have brought against people for housing discrimination.
So are you saying you've initiated many lawsuits over the past year? Is that on discrimination issues? Is that what you're saying?
That is an ongoing process.
So you have initiated how many lawsuits over the last year?
I can't tell you how many. We can certainly get someone to follow up with you on that.
We can get somebody to follow up. I mean, if you're asking me how many lawsuits, we've done many, many lawsuits. Well, how many? Just give me a number. Do like a ballpark. What was he like? Did he fall asleep or something? Is that what happened? It seemed like. Now, look, to be fair, Elizabeth Warren voted to confirm this guy, right? But she mentioned, she's like, well, you had good answers, and I wanted to believe you. Step one, Elizabeth, never believe anything that Ben Carson says. He is likely a liar. He's likely lying to you and doesn't actually care at all. But nonetheless, like I said, she did vote to confirm him, and that, of course, got a lot of people very angry, myself included. So now she apparently is trying to take him to task. Now, the next video that we have is her continuing in on that line of questioning and putting him in a little bit of a tight spot. Let's take a look.
I'm sorry, I'm not asking you to get into your description of it. I just want to know what you've done to reduce the specific things you've done to help reduce housing discrimination. And you've said you've initiated many lawsuits, and you'll get back to me on the exact number. And I just want to know other specific things you have done. Anything more?
Well, I would simply say that what we do is to try to create a fair environment for all people and all of our policies. So when we create a fair environment for everybody, that means minorities as well.
That's the question I'm asking, though, is dealing specifically with discrimination, which is the problem.
I mean, look, I'm just trying to make it fair for everybody. Yeah, but how are you going to do that? Have you passed anything? Have you put any rules into place? And you said you did a bunch of lawsuits, but you can't tell anybody how many lawsuits you've done. What have you actually done other than buy yourself furniture? Nothing. Again, he can't answer the question because, well, he doesn't have an answer to the question because he actually hasn't done anything. Now, speaking of that $31,000, Warren is also going to address that in this next video. Hold.
Mr. Secretary, a lot of people are criticizing you for spending tens of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money on fancy furniture. And don't get me wrong, I think scamming the taxpayers is a scandal. But the biggest scandal of your tenure is your unwillingness to do your job and enforce the laws that reduce housing discrimination and segregation across this country. It is HUD's job to help end housing discrimination. That's what the law said. You said you would enforce these laws. You haven't, and I think that's the scandal that should get you fired.
Well, I don't think that you have characterized things in any way close to what is accurate, but you're welcome to say whatever you want.
No, I really resent that remark. I have asked the question about how it is that delaying enforcement of rules that were already in place to help end housing discrimination would help. I ask you to make your case, and all you can say is compliance costs were high. No. That does not explain how it is that you were going to delay enforcement of those rules, and that was going to help end housing discrimination.
I think I explained it to you quite well, that with the small area fair markets that we did not tell people that they couldn't do it.
I would not describe
we tell them that they could do it, go ahead with that immediately. There's no delay if you're ready to do it.
You won't even look at the data that's come into HUD. That's not a commitment to ending housing discrimination.
Damn. You don't even look at the data. You're not doing anything. You're delaying implementation of these rules, and she went into detail about that. And she also pointed out how Ben Carson is against what HUD is doing. In fact, called it like a socialist experiment. That's not somebody who's serious about ending housing discrimination. That's not somebody who's serious about their job. No, Ben Carson, look, he's only there, and we all know this, he's only there to destroy HUD. He's only there to enrich himself. Now, look, Elizabeth Warren is sort of late to the party on this one. But now she's actually there, and she actually is taking into account, even after voting for to confirm him. Look, Warren, she's a mixed bag. And so on stuff like this, and especially on finance and banking, she is excellent. She is wonderful. On other issues, she is not so good. And I think it's really fair to point that out. Now, I haven't, and I know there's a lot of progressives that have completely written her off. I've only written her off on things like when it comes to authorization for war and things like that. But as far as regulation, banking, housing discrimination, she is actually really good on those issues. So, look, if you want to write her off on everything else, that's fine. That's what I've done. But when it comes to banking and things like that, she is a force to be reckoned with. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got plenty more show for you guys today, including Kellyanne Conway. That's a fantastic story. And who would be Trump's next chief of staff if John Kelly were to get fired? You're going to love that. Stay right here. Round the Nation. Be right back. Welcome back to the show, Round the Nation, right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. If you haven't already, please give us a like and a share. That really helps. Also, another way to help the show, YouTube Super Chat. That is a way for you to, of course, support the show and also send a message. So, you can type in a message and support the show that way, and I will read it. Not only that, but you can also consider becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That's how you can support the show on a month-to-month basis. That really helps out as well. So patreon.com/TYTNation. All right. So more stories. We're going to have some more fun. Let's talk about Donald Trump. If he gets rid of John Kelly, who his next chief of staff will be. Fascinating. All right. There is no chaos. There's only great energy. So it's no secret that President Trump loves shaking up his staff. Loves firing people. In fact, his whole persona was based on firing people, and he's done plenty of that. His last person that resigned was H.R. McMaster, and before that, Rex Tillerson. So he's had an enormous turnover rate in the White House when it comes to staffers. In fact, there's always seems to be somebody that is leaving the White House or is replacing someone else who has already left. Now, one of the people that he could also replace is his Chief of Staff, John Kelly. I mean, it would be his second Chief of Staff before it was Reince Priebus, who, by the way, is probably still out there pouring Baileys on his cereal. Now, Trump has had some issues with John Kelly, and that's why it's important to bring up. In fact, recently there was the Rob Porter scandal that lasted a little while and actually led to the resignation of Hope Hicks. Hope Hicks was apparently romantically linked with Rob Porter, who lost his security clearance because apparently, or he couldn't pass a background check because he had some previous problems with relationships. Now, he happened to have been in a relationship with Hope Hicks. Anyway, now, it's not just him, of course. Earlier, he made statements, I think it was like last month, he made statements commenting, or made comments calling Trump uninformed when it comes to immigration. So, oh no, his views on immigration, they're evolving, which led Trump later on to release a tweet that, no, I've known everything about immigration ever. I've always known everything about immigration. I'm not evolving at all. Not evolving at all. Fascinating. And look, not only that, but he's a little chafed at Kelly's style. Now, Kelly, of course, basically locked him down from all of their sources of information and have kept the information going to the president's desk fairly limited. Now, that is something that he has said to friends outside of the White House that he wasn't exactly fond of. Because, look, when he's on executive time, he usually watches Fox News, eats cheeseburgers, and calls his friends to complain. Now, still, with all that, he has not actually fired John Kelly because, well, for one, they agree on immigration. Okay. There's another good reason. I mean, and look, he's very hawkish on immigration, very of the same mind as Donald Trump. Oh, let's keep people out. Let's keep the refugees out. Look, John Kelly's a terrible person. So don't let that fact get away from you. Not only that, but John Kelly seems to be doing all the work. And if there's one thing President Trump hates doing, it's work. He would rather be at Mar-a-Lago. But aside from those things, what if John Kelly either resigned or was fired? Well, who would take his place? Well, that's actually very interesting. And for that, we go to somebody who was close in the White House up until recently, who decided he wanted to talk about this, about who he thinks would replace John Kelly if he were to go. Let's go to that. Seriously? I got my buttons that aren't working.
I've actually argued that if General Kelly at any time does decide to leave, or the president decides it's time for him to move on, I don't believe there'll be another chief of staff. I think that there'll be 5 or 6 direct reports like there was in Trump Tower. I think the president is a very hands-on manager, and he feels more comfortable with that.
All right, so look, to be fair, that's Steve Bannon, formerly of the White House, formerly of Breitbart, formerly relevant. No longer relevant. Nonetheless, and this was at a, well, it doesn't matter where it was at or where he said it. Steve Bannon thinks, well, look, if Trump fires Kelly, he's just going to take over himself. Oh, that's going to be so much fun. Look, you can't run the White House like you ran Trump Tower. In fact, he's been trying to do that. And when he tried to do that, it was an absolute, complete disaster. It was, like I said, chaos. Oh, but no, there's no chaos. There's only great energy. Sure. Now, look, it is, like I said, it's Steve Bannon, so take this with a grain of salt, obviously. But nonetheless, there's another thing you need to take as a grain of salt, and that's when the president says, oh, no, don't worry about it. John Kelly's job is 100% safe. Well, how many times have we heard that about people whose job was not safe? In fact, you had Rex Tillerson, who we believe their job was safe. Not only that, but you have Hope Hicks. We thought she was safe. Paul Manafort, we thought that he was safe. Michael Flynn, Gary Cohn, many others. Again, this administration has had absolute record turnover. So you could argue that there is no job in the White House that is safe. And to me personally, I would extend that to Donald Trump as well, because Mueller's in his bank accounts. He's coming for him. Look, people are either getting fired or they're jumping ship. And again, that probably has to do with Mueller bearing down on them. But please, Donald Trump, please be your chief of staff. Yeah, just get rid of Kelly. We'll see how that works out. I'm sure chaos will not reign. I'm sure the White House will, instead of being chaotic, will just be full of great energy. Let's see what happens. Okay. These are fun stories. Okay. Let's go to Kellyanne Conway. Let's have some fun here. We'll continue our Fun Friday. You scream, we all scream. Apparently. Now, Kellyanne Conway is the White House Kellyanne Conway is the White House's new drug czar, and she's basically taking over the White House's response to the massive opioid epidemic that, of course, is killing thousands of people today, and is a huge problem that actually needs real solutions. In fact, Donald Trump, while he was running, promised solutions. Well, how has that turned out? Apparently not very well. In fact, in a speech to younger people on Thursday, Kellyanne Conway suggested that one way to avoid becoming addicted to opioids, to powerful prescription painkillers, is to, instead of take them, just eat ice cream and French fries. She said, quote, "On our college campuses, your folks are reading the labels. They won't put any sugar in their body. They don't eat carbs anymore, and they're very, very fastidious about what goes into their body. And then you buy a street drug for $5 or $10, and it's laced with fentanyl. And that's it." Wait, what? Okay, so she's saying, oh, these kids, man, they're so good about, eating the right things. But then they just go buy a street drug for $5. No, that's not what happens. In fact, there's a lot of people that are like, street drug for $5. What can you get for $5? Look, and that's ignoring the issue of actually where these drugs and where people actually get addicted from. These are people that are older adults, normally people hit by the opioid crisis, and they're usually people that have been prescribed these drugs by doctors, by people in lab coats. Not people who go and sell street drugs for $5 to $10. I mean, look, that comes in later on, after this person is addicted, or these people end up getting addicted to these prescription pain pills. But her characterization of what's going on is absolutely ridiculous. Now, it gets even more ridiculous. She went on to say that as an older adult, her advice to young listeners is just to eat the ice cream, have the French fry, don't buy the street drug. Believe me, it all works out. Dear God. Hey, look, eat your ice cream, eat your fries, and just don't buy drugs. If only you just didn't buy drugs, well, then you'd be okay. You wouldn't get hooked. You've got to be kidding me. Suffice it to say, upon hearing this, the internet was less than thrilled. I've got some great tweets about this. Now, Little Lovecraft says, quote, "Was feeling bad about my McDonald's ice cream cone today until I realized it helped me avert opioid addiction. Thanks, Kellyanne Conway." Now, Shauna writes in, "Sure, Kellyanne polls. Next time I visit the two relatives I've lost to opioids, I'll leave ice cream and fries on their graves." Mike Stevens, wearing a turtleneck, that's a great Twitter handle, tweets in, "I was considering doing fentanyl, but now thanks to Kellyanne, I'm just going to have the French fry instead. Save me from a life on the streets. Well, I mean, that's her job, right? That's Kellyanne Conway's job, is to save you from a life on the streets. If only I had to have that ice cream. If only we'd known that so many years ago when people started to get addicted. When we could have just said no and ate the French fry instead. Which, by the way, French fries and ice cream both give me terrible heartburn. So what am I supposed to do now? Kellyanne, give me answers. I need answers. Anyway. Now, business industry CEO tweeted, "It's Thursday in the desolate Rust Belt. You know what that means. It's time to eat a single French fry and avoid opiate addiction." These are great. Chase Morgan tweets, "Can confirm freebasing ice cream and eating one French fry is way more euphoric than one of the strongest opioids on the market." Brett Ladd says, "Kellyanne Conway wants people to avoid opiates with her advice. Eat the ice cream, have the fries. If I would have told my family members that were addicted to fentanyl, just eat the fries or ice cream, they wouldn't have died." And finally, no, not finally. Louis says, "Read her advice to my 17-year-old. His response was to ask if advice came from the Onion, because if not, someone needs to drug test her." And finally, this tweet says, "Shattered your kneecap in an industrial accident. Kill the excruciating pain with some delicious ice cream. Or perhaps the French fry." I love this. Look, to get serious for a moment, fentanyl, one of the big problems with fentanyl is how strong it was and how much easier it is to get. I mean, people, they get addicted from these prescription drugs, right? And oftentimes it is work-related, people that have back problems or neck problems or get into accidents and things like that. And these doctors, well, some of them get kickbacks from this, let's be honest. I mean, look, let's talk about the town in West Virginia that had, in a small period of time, 20 million pills that was shipped to it. That is a lot of pills. That's not drug pushers, right? Or well, actually, I guess you could say that they were, but these are legal drug pushers. These are pharmaceutical companies. These are doctors that are getting paid by pharmaceutical companies to overprescribe these pills that people get hooked on. And then when their prescription runs out or they can't afford that, they're addicted, that's when they go to the street fentanyl. So no amount of ice cream or fries is going to stop that. You know what's actually going to stop that? We actually crack down on pharmaceutical companies. But that'll never happen because the Trump administration and all these administrations get money from the pharmaceutical industry. They're the number one donor on Capitol Hill. So odds are you see a politician, they're getting paid by the pharmaceutical industry. That's why we're never going to solve this actual problem. And look, the problem with fentanyl, too, is that it's 100 times more potent than morphine. And it's also several times stronger than heroin. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. We're putting Kellyanne Conway, who is basically putting in political appointees who have absolutely zero experience. They have no idea what they're doing. None. In fact, former drug officials told Politico back in February that Conway had sidelined drug policy experts in favor of political staffers with little experience. And this is what you get when you have people with no experience. You know, you could avoid addiction by eating fries. This is ridiculous. Kellyanne Conway is the least qualified person to be in this position. And her being in that position is, look, it's not helping people. And there are people that are literally dying on her watch. And she will do absolutely nothing to solve the real situation. You want to talk about the swamp. You want to talk about corruption. You want to talk about being grossly unqualified for the job. Well, all of those describe Kellyanne Conway. Okay. Actually, I want to give you some good news before we go. So let's go to Philadelphia. What we should actually do. This is great. Now, Larry Krasner is a Philadelphia district attorney who ran on nothing more than radically changing the system. Now, upon those promises, of course, he got swept into office overwhelmingly. So now it's been about 3 months since he got into office, and well, how's he doing? Well, it turns out, amazingly. Now, according to The Intercept, it's written by Sean King. He writes that Krasner, in his first week on the job, decided to fire 31 prosecutors from the DA's office because they weren't committed to the changes he intended to make. Now, what change did he intend to make? He said, basically, here's what we're going to do. These policies that I'm going to put into place are an effort to end mass incarceration and bring balance back into sentencing. That's his mission statement. So these 31 prosecutors, if they didn't want to reduce and end mass incarceration, they got to go. Like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. If you're not going to try to reduce mass incarceration, you're gone. I have no use for you. That's strong, that's bold, that's progressive. Krasner, when he got into office, he said, look, I have a clear mandate for the voters to do transformational change. Firing these guys, these people who are not interested in change, well, this is necessary to achieve the agenda of change. This is what I was voted into office for. This is what the people who put me here want me to do. Now, he's done even more. Next, Krasner obeyed a court order to release a list of 29 officers from the Philadelphia Police Department that were on a so-called do not call list. Now, that means that these police officers were so incredibly corrupt that they would be considered unreliable as witnesses. Look, why on earth would any department keep those kinds of people? If you cannot trust them, if they're not trustworthy enough to be a witness, and these are police officers, they got to go. They have no business being police officers. And of course, Krasner said, absolutely. Let's get rid of these assholes. They're not going to help at all. In fact, these police officers on the list either had been charged with crimes or found responsible for misconduct in internal police probes conducted by the department's Board of Inquiry. Among the offenses, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer, police officers had lied to their fellow investigators, filed false reports, used excessive force, driven drunk, and even had been found committing burglary. No, you don't want these people as police officers. Get them out, get them out, get them out. And of course, Krasner said, I'm going to get them out. And that's exactly what he did. Now, he also issued a 5-page guiding document of new policies. Now, some of these policies, of course, all of them are huge. He got rid of cash bail, for one. He's like, what do I want to do to help people? I'm going to get rid of cash bail. Because that is an old, archaic system, which, of course, harms poor people. And look, a lot of poor people happen to also be minorities. So, yes, it hurts the poor, it hurts minorities, while rich people, well, they can get out on bail. So this is an unjust system that is archaic, that is old, and Larry Krasner says, I'm not going to have any of that. Let's get rid of it because it is absolutely unfair. And that's awesome. Not only that, but Krasner instructs prosecutors to stop prosecuting marijuana possession, regardless of the weight. He says, I don't care how much pot you're carrying. We're not going to punish you for that. Okay, stop prosecuting these possession charges. Not only that, but he also instructed prosecutors to stop charging those people who have paraphernalia, right? So stop going after people for drug paraphernalia as well. So you get a bong, you're fine. The prosecutors in Philadelphia are not coming after you. Not only that, but if you're a sex worker, now that's very important too. Krasner instructed his prosecutors to stop charging sex workers that have fewer than 3 convictions with any crime and drop all current cases against sex workers who fit that description. And all sex workers with 3 or more convictions are to be referred to something called Dawn Court. Now, that is a special diversionary program created in 2010 specifically for sex workers with repeat offenses. And it's actually the first of its kind within the entire nation. Not only that, but he also told all of his prosecutors, the ones that were left, to actually begin plea deals, or to stop beginning plea deals with the highest possible sentencing, and instead begin those plea deals with the bottom end of the available range of time that can be served. And when less than 24 months is available as a sentence for a crime, he wants his prosecutors to say house arrest or put them into diversion programs that could be used instead of incarceration. Now imagine that. Prosecutors that are actually saying, we're going to go and try to push the lowest end of the spectrum when it comes to punishing people with crimes. That's amazing. That's something that we have never heard. Prosecutors, of course, traditionally push the most amount of time. Krasner is not having that. He says, no. Lower end. Let's try to keep people out of the prison system. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you actually elect a progressive who wants to change the system. Because, look, we have the biggest prison population in the world. We have the most people incarcerated, and overwhelmingly, our prisoners are black. And overwhelmingly in for non-violent drug-related crimes, thanks to the drug war. That system has to change. And people like Larry Krasner, bold progressives who actually see the problems in the system and say, we can make a change, are exactly the kind of people that are going to be change makers in this system. Look, if you don't think that voting matters, if you don't think that who you elect and who you put into office at the local level, if you don't think that matters, Larry Krasner has a message for you. It absolutely matters, because look at how he has upended the system, and he has made no shortage of enemies doing so. But this is what real change looks like. This is what happens when you elect a real progressive. Remember that next time you have a local DA race, or you have any sort of local race. Remember what happens when you actually put a progressive in charge. Okay. I think I kind of hammered that. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please give us a like. And not only that, but please subscribe to the channel for more videos. We might do some stuff over the weekend, some pre-recorded videos, kind of make up for when I was gone. Also, Monday, there will not be a live show, but I will try to put up some videos as well. So there's that. But normally we try to have a stream every Monday through Friday around 3 p.m. So this schedule has been a little weird this month. Plus I've been sick. So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys. Love you. You're awesome, amazing as usual. And thank you so much for watching. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. Have an awesome weekend. We'll see you live Tuesday around the nation.